What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here, and welcome back to the Metallica discography. Today I'm going to be reviewing the band's 6th album, entitled Load. Load was released on June the 4th, 1996, making this the band's first album in almost 5 years, so that's quite a long gap after the release of their global smash hit of an album, of their last album being The Black Album. And this is the next album to be released through Elektra Records, and the second overall to be involving Bob Rock as the band's full-time producer. With the overall success and acclaim Metallica had achieved successfully, and relentless amounts of hectic touring to promote the Black Album's musical identity, Metallica has been heavily televised, interviewed an endless amount of times, and they had become, in the end, one of the most talked about and successful bands of all time. However, years later, after the work of the Black Album and its overall era, Load is a different animal when you compare it to the Black Album. This album is unapologetic in the biggest variety, and especially with the identity of the band themselves in terms of their appearances. Their long hair had been cut to short hair, eyeliner, makeup, etc. And it was around this time that people are turning their backs away from the band. But what is also even more disappointing is that the heavy metal genre had started to fizzle out, as there were other genres in the metal history that were rising, especially with some more death metal to groove metal and a pioneering genre known as nu metal, but with heavy metal bands like Black Sabbath trying to be relevant with the Tony Martin period, Iron Maiden with the Blaze Bayley period, and also with Judas Priest, again into a different vocalist situation. But with Metallica, they are really still going at it into making something in a hugest type of form with the versatility, and Load's premise is, to me, one of the favourites, in my opinion, in the Metallica discography. Load at first was a record that took me a long time to appreciate it, because when I bought it, at the same time when I was buying the earlier stuff, I thought the album was a very big mixed bag. However, when it comes to the returning of the album, to replay the album as many times over, I am very happy to say that this had become one of my most favourite Metallica releases. Around this juncture of influences, the band had been experimenting into the genres of blues rock, southern, and the hard rock, even becoming very inspired by a lot of rock bands throughout the creation of this record. I will have to say that Load, with its own premise, is without question a very successful move for Metallica whenever I listen to this record. As much as I heavily praised the Black Album, in my experience with this one, this is going to stir some people. I would actually listen to and love Load more than the Black Album. The first track, Ain't My Bitch, great opening sound to anticipate its hook, with the tone of the music in a hard rock feeling with confidence. The music is highly constant in repetitive tempo and filling in very good riffs. Hetfield's passionate vocals are really, really presentable. The lyrics are in this attitude expression with a mood of not caring about a person or a situation, and say this apathy by saying it ain't their bitch. Just because of the word bitch on the track's title, that's not meant to be a target to a woman, because it's been used actually as a metaphor for a problem. It's a fun, catchy, memorable track with a strong chorus, and as much as I think Enter Sandman has been fun, I think Ain't My Bitch is one of these numbers as well. The track 2x4 has a swagger, groovy sound. The music is quite like a bluesy tinge. The guitar work was drenching in these various licks and effects to make some kind of psychedelic type experiment. The weariness of the chorus from the way it sounds did sound trippy. Lars's drumming goes through a slick, simplistic beat, and the whole sound of the track paints a feeling loose, very jam-based. I also love this one as one of my top favourites of this record. The House That Jack Built is a song that took me a long while to accept this. The guitars to this tone sound crunchy and delicate. The overall pacing was really mellow. James's vocals sounded really impressive when going into the variety of melody and projection from his clean vocals. The music, to me, has this southern influence, lyrically speaking, on the describing of the verse sections, making a heavy reference into Hetfield's drinking addiction. And the word Jack from the track title alone is a reference to Jack Daniels. The overall personal themes from what he did with the Black Album continues here for this record. And this would become a big theme from Hetfield's troubled state of behaviour. But I really, really enjoy this one a lot better over time when I listen to this. Until It Sleeps, tripped out, slow music. As a song, it stands out. The instrumentation adds a beauty of casting out magical, colourful tones with the mixes in, again, this psychedelic feel all over this whole track alone. The vocals are excellent and innocent sounding, vein of lyrics from what the Black Album was in terms of the personal side about James's mother. This is another one which tackles into his mother's battling from cancer, to which the word "it" in the lyrics in the title refers to that disease. The pain of the song refers to his emotional baggage and his mother's physical pain. It's a very brave song from the way the words were coming right out through Hetfield's idea of words, and it is one of my other highlights on this album. But out of all of the favourites, the next track, King Nothing, I do adore this track. Super awesome riffs that deliver strongly. The words to this song describe of wishing and wantings of greed, of the demon maybe inside of Hetfield's body or someone else's. The mention of the word greed was taken from one of the 7 deadly sins, with the meaning of when is the need for satisfaction over, as it has been added to one of the lyrics later on. The king's symbol to people who waste time chasing materials to boost their behaviour of egoism and building their personality around that. But it does grab as many hooks as it gets. Jason Newsted's bass is also very cool to hear the opening bass lines and the band joining in the banging energy from this whole writing. Hero of the Day. The first half of this track does create a ballad feel in, to me, like a grungy vibe, as the band were inspired by the likes of the grunge scene in Seattle as well. The melody sounds warm, you can hear more of the bass work, which is also a plus through the verse sections. Then the second half of the song dives into the heavier moments. It has a reflection feeling about it. The words are about feeling the difficulty of time going and to feel disappointed of things that turn out like it wasn't supposed to happen, troubled experiences, nightmares from the past that would affect him to build a wall to isolate from the outsiders. It's a very interesting idea to feel these struggles, feeling desperate and wanting something to change but doesn't fulfill anything. And this is another one of the best tracks on the album because of the overall progression and diversity of the whole composition. Bleeding Me. Just like with the house that Jack built, I do love the ongoing pacing of feeling the vibe because it sounds intriguing and stylistic as the instrumentation proceeds a lot of the whole sound of the band. The lyrics are the return into this depressive and alcohol addiction states. You can hear the honesty and the vanquish, wearing himself out from the damage to his health, deteriorating relationship problems, and wants to grow and build things to improve. Then later on making a line on finding a cure, which is to bleed out the poison and the toxins, but it will be a recovering process. The music is as expressive as much as the lyrics. It's mesmerizing on its deep context and making this also one of my most favorite songs on this album. Speaking of the lyrics of Cure, the next track is Cure. The song brings back the bluesy approach into a similar beat like with King Nothing. The structure does effectively make a darker tone, a bit more power, hearing a bit of distortion when you hear Hetfield's vocals within his range. Simple riffs, but it adds a rock-driven personality at the same time. I do like the combination as well of the lower spoken word and the higher vocal register because it adds a texture to it which I like a lot. The words are pretty much like the same lyricism about his mother's cancer disease. It's not a strong song, but I at the same time do dig this one so much. However, my least favourite cut of this whole album is Poor Twisted Me. The song is remotely repetitive and I understand its purpose with the idea, the depression, emotions from Hetfield's lyricism, but musically it just sounds uninspired and not as interesting from its ability to try and execute things. I will have to say that this is overall one of my least ever favourite Metallica songs. Wasting My Hate. The band comes back into the higher form of tempo like the opening track of Ain't My Bitch, and it rocks. The filling up lead solo work to the strong structure really matches the tightness, and hard rocking territory dominated things so successfully. The inspiration to this one was pretty unexpected because, as I read it here, the song was inspired by country outlaw Waylon Jennings, who's a friend of James. Waylon tells him the story of when he was sitting in a diner somewhere and there was a guy outside in a car staring at him. So Waylon, annoyed, stares back at the man angrily. When Waylon finally had enough, he went out to talk to the guy in the car, only to find out that the man was sleeping. So he thought, oh man, I've wasted my hate on this guy. So yeah, it does make this strange idea to be completed with this song, but the song is brilliant. Mama Said. Now, this is one of these songs from Metallica fans when they think about this as one of the worst Metallica songs or one of the weakest on this album. And if you think that way, then I really don't care. This is an outstanding number. Mama Said is the only country acoustic flavour. It is as heartfelt and moving. The words are pretty much a tribute to James's mother, with the lines as a motivation for his son, knowing he'll always be the kid to his parents, having a touching mood all the way through this song. still having the difficulties of overcoming the grief, but her memory is still within him, rebelled himself at a young age, and then a drift between him and his mother, running away from home, didn't mend their relationship in the end, when there isn't time to change, but despite the deep past, he still loves her. It is beautiful, and to me, a misunderstood song. It is really also nice to hear the band backing him up, healing the wounds from James Hetfield's own personal lyrics. It's musical, lovely chorus, and the harmonies are just as stunning. The band playing along with Hetfield to this song could not have been better. As much as I love Nothing Else Matters, Mama Said is another highlight. The Thorn Within weirdly makes me think of a beginning on a Black Sabbath tone, and the guitar's produced sound is thick. It has this doomy admiration, versatility involving the wah-wahs to minor keyed, moody behavior of the music. The phaser effects were lovely. Again, onto the harmonic vocals coming in. I feel these words were having another side of religion, of forgiveness to sinning, feeling the guiltiness and being disgraced, shadows and following you in your surroundings. It's not a blinder of a track for many fans, but I think it is really enjoyable and highly underrated. It's cool to hear a bit more of Lars Ulrich's double bass pedaling, because this does have some form of its dramatic effort. The penultimate song, Ronnie, this is the most appropriate soul of this blues inspiration, and I really liked this compressed edition of the produced guitar picking type style. The instrumentation builds in the formula of delicate and persistent writing. I don't understand the negativity from the fans to describe this track, because this one, to me, is great. The lyrics are around a theme similar to a school shooting. The theme for the song was taken from a 1990s school shooting in Washington State. I never understood the hate about this one, because, like I said, I think it is one of my really enjoyed moments on this album. The next track, The Outlaw Torn. This is a masterpiece to conclude this record. Long, sustaining chords that sound just as immense, droning through this looping form of the overall structure. I love the vocals in this, loose and great projection in his vibrato and awesome vocal delivery on Hetfield's tone. This is all into the emotion of losing someone to death and finding someone to replace the previous person, although some say that it could be pretty much like about the moment when the passing of Cliff Burton happened. But what I do adore about this track is the looseness, like with 2x4, but it is emerging, it is effective. The bass to the delayed solos and crafted jamming shows the band in a creative peak. This is one of the most approachable ones over time for Metallica fans, and it's no wonder that they do love this track. I do find it to be as a classic, like with the other obvious gems of closing tracks from the rest of their discography. Overall, Load by Metallica being the longest album in their discography at almost 80 minutes is an amazing record. I love the progressions to the honesty, the vulnerability that was so presentable in Hetfield's writing, the chemistry of the band's stylistic changes. I am so interested to hear what you think of Load in the comments down below. Is this a favourite for you? Because, like I said, I love this album. as much as the earlier stuff and prefer this than the Black Album, which I understandably do know that it will cause some dividing attention of reactions for the audience out there. But at the end of the day, that's just basically what I think. I'm going to give Load by Metallica a very favourable 9 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.